Hey guys, how's it going today? So today on the show, I'm going to cover kind of a controversial topic. It's something that a lot of people deal with, especially with vehicles as they get a little older, and that is how to deal with rust. Now, specifically, I'm talking about rust on the undercarriage, something that's not necessarily you're going to be replacing panels or anything like that, but more on stuff that's more on the frame and underbody of a vehicle where you can't just take it off and replace it, and how to deal with it, especially on a vehicle that is otherwise great and you want to keep running and going, and just how to deal with that. So now initially I had filmed this episode literally a year and a half ago, and then I just shelved it. I didn't think I'd ever put this out just because it's a little bit of a controversial topic when it comes to how to deal with rust, and people get super opinionated about it. And trust me, I get it. People with a ton of experience doing body work. I have two bodymen in the family, both my father-in-law and brother-in-law, lifelong bodymen doing auto body. So I get it. I totally get it. There's a lot of strong opinions about how to deal with stuff like rust, especially underbody rust. So after completing this episode, I thought maybe I might get some backlash, so I just shelved it and thought, you know what, I'll just leave this one for me. But now that a year and a half has passed by, checking up on it, I've got the actual results of this experiment, right? The long haul time, almost 2 years going by, that's enough that you can get some kind of conclusion to an experiment just to see how well things worked out. And I figured that this was something that would be interesting to you guys to put out. So the results are real time. There's no speculation. It is what it is. So it's good information for you guys. And I thought I would finally share. Basically, my Jeep, I've shown it on my channel a couple times. I got a 2012 Jeep Wrangler, which I love, which I bought from brand new. And it is kind of my workhorse, especially over the winter and stuff like that. It takes the worst of all the weather that we have for me, driving in all the terrible conditions, dealing with all the salt on the roads. And over the course of that time, the underbody has gotten extremely rusty. So in doing a little bit of that digging and a little bit of research, searching around, seeing what there was out there, I came across PUR 15. And PUR 15 is infamous in automotive circles, really. It's really popular, but also really controversial too. There's people out there that swear by it and say it is the best thing you could possibly do for a rusty vehicle, rusty undercarriage. And then there's other people, a lot of people in the automotive repair side of it that say it's just garbage, Band-Aid fix that the rust will be immediately back and it's a waste of time and energy. And so PUR 15 is designed to be painted directly over rust. That is what PUR stands for, paint over rust. So it's literally designed to be painted right over top of it. And basically what it is it's supposed to seal out any of the moisture and basically stop the rust from reoccurring, because it's taking away the moisture that it needs to continue rusting. So after picking up a little bit of PUR 15 and getting ready to tackle the Jeep, the first step was to try to wire wheel off as much of that loose rust as I could, because it was in terrible shape. As you can see here, the Jeep was in rough shape when it came to rust, very heavily rusted underneath. So I wanted to try to get as much of that knocked down as much as I could to try to give the paint the best chance of trying to seal out any more rust. Okay, so a couple things that are immediately apparent to me when I'm trying to just wire wheel all this rust off the bottom of my frame is there is a crazy amount of rust flaking off here. So it's flying off and hitting me in the face. So immediately, instead of safety glasses, I went straight to my welding mask, just because at least I get full face coverage, because there's chunks and chips and stuff flying everywhere and it ended up all over my floor. I had to sweep it all up. It was actually a crazy pile just doing a small little area. So that was one thing. The other thing is a dust mask. N95 dust mask, just because there's so much rusty dust and stuff being kicked out as I'm wire wheeling. I don't want to be breathing that stuff in. I need my lung power. So two things to consider. And yeah, like I say, we're not trying to get all of the rust completely off. We're just trying to get rid of all the loose surface stuff that we can just kind of chip away at a little bit so that we can paint right over it. And here's the area after I wire wheeled it. So it still looks rusty, but at least all that loose stuff is off. So we can go ahead and just coat that with the POR 15 and just to seal off all that rust so it can continue to rust. Catch it at the right time, and then we should be good, have no more problems with the rust. Because to be honest, I didn't want this to get any worse. And honestly, that's another thing too. When people talk about driving their Challengers in the winter, I guess it really depends on where you're at and what your definition of winter is. But here, winter is super long, it's super cold. And I know for a few years, the city started using some salt, was it like, I can't remember what the chemical compound was of this special salt, but really nasty stuff to try to melt the ice. Special road salt that was extremely corrosive. They started using it for a couple of years and then they abandoned it because it was so bad for all the vehicles on the road. And the product of that is the rust that I'm seeing underneath my Jeep right now. Whereas if you go underneath my 2009 Challenger, which is, you know, older than my Jeep, it looks brand new underneath. It looks like it just rolled off the factory assembly line. So, and not only that, I mean, the salt plays havoc on the carpets, on the interior of your cars. It beats it up. Winter is definitely tough on vehicles if you actually see a real winter. So that is the reason why I kind of advocate for parking your Challenger in the winter. I know that's why I park mine in the winter, but at the same time, we're going to get the frame and all the undercarriage here coated and protected, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. So we know the salt and stuff isn't going to affect it anymore. Just got to take a little bit of elbow grease, that's all, and a whole lot of POR 15. And that's the second round of all the stuff I've cleaned up that was rust that was knocked off there with the wire wheel. There's a lot. Okay, so now that I got most of the rust and stuff kind of knocked off there anyways, with the wire wheel, gone over it as best I can, pretty much every area I could reach as good as I could. Now it's time for the paint prep stage. Now for paint prep, POR 15 actually does sell their own separate paint prep kind of grease remover sort of solution. They didn't have any at Canadian Tire where I was at, so instead I just picked up this Duplicolor stuff, and this is the same deal, grease wax remover. Basically this thing strips any grease or any chemical sort of stuff on the surface you're about to paint and makes it so that the paint will adhere to it well. So the only catch about this stuff is it is fairly toxic and serious, so a couple things to consider. My half mask with my chemical cartridges on there, because you don't want to breathe this stuff in and you want to use it in a well ventilated area. I've got goggles on this one because I don't want this dripping into my eyes. I'm going to be laying on my back, applying this stuff directly over top of my head and my own face with a rag. It takes nothing for it to drip off and hit you in the eye, and then you're in big trouble. So I'm not taking the chance. I just don't care. Throw on some stupid goggles and make sure my face is safe. And they warn you not to get any on your skin. So nitrile gloves is probably a smart idea in applying this. So we'll throw all this stuff on, wipe everything down, and then we can get to applying some PR15. Okay, now that we've got the surfaces prepped, got the rust knocked off, we've got the grease and wax remover, the paint pre-prep, all wiped down all the areas that we want to paint. Now it's time to apply the PR15. So, a couple things about PR15. Don't get it on your skin, because it will not come off your skin, no matter what. Don't get it in your hair. It's not going to come off your hair. Cover up your eyes, all that kind of stuff. Same kind of steps that we took when we were doing the degreaser. We're going to do the same thing with the PR15. Don't want to breathe it in, don't want to get it on your skin, and don't want to get it on like stuff like the garage floor, things like that, because the stains are not going to come out. The stuff is pretty tough. Its only nemesis is UV light. So I mean, I got my garage floor, got the cardboard there just to protect the garage floor, right? So with that, we're pretty much ready to go. We'll start applying a couple coats. It makes sense to apply a couple of thin coats first, just so it doesn't drip and run and then drop down on your face or drop down on the floor, anything like that. Makes sense to do some thin coats first and then add coats as you go. That way it's not dripping and kind of getting a droopy, drippy sort of finish on there. We'll get nice, even, thin coats, put a couple coats on, and see how the stuff holds up.
With my new song, Vicrez, featuring the amazing Bwoody. This song is the anthem of my new record, and it is
And this is the result after one coat. And obviously, not going super crazy with masking or anything. There's definitely drip marks. I definitely could have gone crazy and made this really meticulous, but it's the underside of a Jeep, so I'm not super worried about aesthetics. A little drip gets here and there. It's not the worst, but this stuff did a really good job. And my frame rail up there. So this is just one coat. I'm probably going to hit it with another coat. That was all completely rusted. And then same thing with this on the outside here. Really good job. So guys, I was initially really hesitant to try to put out this video. In fact, obviously I shelved it for a long time, expecting to never release this video. Just because after seeing it, seeing a lot of negative comments, people saying that it doesn't work, it's a waste of time, saying that you have to do a lot more steps than just paint it, which I only painted it and degreased it. I didn't put on any kind of rust treatment chemicals or anything like that. I just went right over it. Kind of ignorance at the time. I didn't really understand that you could treat it and what was out there. And on top of that, talking to my family, my family that's in the auto body industry, specifically my little brother-in-law, who's an amazing bodyman, super talented guy. And he basically told me that, you know, once rust is there, it's just, you can't get it off. It is just, you have to live with it. Rust is just a tricky SOB, and he didn't feel like POR was going to do anything whatsoever, and kind of thought it was a little bit of a waste of time, and questioned me doing it. So that also made me really doubt putting out the video. And I was like, well, if anything, I guess for the meantime, at least my undercarriage looks considerably better under the Jeep. It looked like actually brand new, aside from the paint drips and overspray. But yeah, now that a year and a half has passed and we have some real life data that we can look at to analyze how well this did, we can see exactly what you can expect from POR 15 after a year and a half has passed with just a little prep, degreaser, and then painting right on the surface. As you can see, certain surfaces, you can see little specks of rust starting to peek through the coating. So considerably better than what it was, but yeah, after a year and a half, it's starting to peek through a little bit. So I'm definitely probably going to have to recoat that at some point. One thing that is kind of impressive to me is if you look back here at the diff and the sway bar and the axle tubes, it's actually in great shape. There is no rust whatsoever on that has peeked through, which I think is really cool. Now, can I improve upon the results that I got by changing up my process a little bit? I really do think so. So now, a little bit later, knowing what I know and doing a little bit more body work and doing a little bit more research into rust repair, I think I would have been a lot smarter to wire brush all the rust off and then hit it with some chemical rust treatment. And that basically changes the chemical composition of rust to try to eliminate it and then paint over top of it. That would have been the smartest play. I think I would have gotten even better results. I think if I did that, I would not have any rust whatsoever starting to peek through on some of that rear frame rail. And in fact, I've actually picked some up to use on my Ram 1500 project that I recently introduced to the channel that I'll have updates on really quickly here. Major progress on the Ram, but I actually ended up picking up some Rust Check rust converter. And how this stuff works is it basically transforms rust into a black, non-rusting, insoluble barrier layer. So basically it takes that rust and turns it into something that is not rusty metal. And then when you coat over top of it, your results are going to be a lot better and they're going to last a lot longer. So I've taken this lesson with my Jeep, which all things said actually turned out really well. And I'm going to take that and apply it to the Ram 1500 and use that to get even better results with the Ram and bringing that back to life. And then on top of that, for anything else that I do on the Jeep, I'll definitely be using some rust converter and using the POR 15 with it, just to up the game a little bit and get even better results. But honestly, super impressed with the results I got. You know, for an afternoon, we protected underneath the Jeep. It still looks really good, almost 2 years on right now. So I really can't complain because it was an absolutely brutal shape when we started. So a little change to the process, and I think we get even better results, something that would last years and years. So there you have it, guys. If you are looking at protecting the underside of your Mopars, especially as some of the earlier challengers like my 09, if you've driven it year round, you might be seeing some rust on the undercarriage. This is a viable solution to try to tackle that and protect the cars that we love and the Mopars that we love. So anyways, guys, that'll do it for this episode. Stay tuned because I've got so much coming up with the Ram 1500 repair. I've got more stuff coming with the Challenger, my 09 Challenger. Lots coming up, guys. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.